Grace and peace. Welcome to Judah's Roy Domestic Violence Awareness Initiative YouTube channel. I'm your host, Apostle Cheryl. Before we get started, I'll give you a few seconds to check down here below the video. Make sure you subscribe if you've not done so already, and then click the bell so that you receive a notice every time we upload a new video at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time on Sunday afternoons. Thank you for taking the time to do that. So this video wraps up our coverage of what is your conflict resolution style. Segment 1 was entitled, What is your conflict resolution style? And then we went on in subsequent videos to address the different styles, okay? We've identified 5 styles according to the Thomas Kilmann conflict mode instrument, which is a highly regarded, highly respected tool utilized by human resources managers worldwide. And the 5 conflict resolution styles that were identified were collaborating, competing, avoiding, accommodating, and compromising. So again, the 5 conflict resolution styles are collaborating, competing, avoiding, accommodating, and compromising. And so this video, we're going to focus on the 5th and final style, which is compromising. But before we do that, we're going to do a quick recap of what a conflict is, right? And what resolution is, and then what conflict resolution itself is. It's important to know that the purpose of a constructive conflict resolution process is not to assign blame. It's not to determine, to ascertain who's right and who's wrong, who's righter and who's wronger. That's not the point. The point is to find a solution that all parties can live with, okay? So of the 5 styles that we've identified, it's important to know that there's no right or wrong style per se. It's important to be able to identify the key components of each style and to maybe be able to identify when each of these styles may be more appropriate or more effective. Why is it important that we be able to identify our conflict resolution style? Well, first of all, we all have at least one that tends to be our go-to, right? It's something that we do without even thinking when we're confronted with a challenge or a conflict of some sort. And it's important that we be able to identify what that is. And if we can develop an understanding about the others, then we can determine when one may be more effective for us. If we can familiarize ourselves with the characteristics of each of these 5 conflict resolution styles, we'll be better able to be intentional about what response we bring to a particular conflict. And it will help us also to identify what the most important thing is for us. Is it the relationship that is going to be impacted, or is it the outcome that is most important to us? As I stated previously, an effective conflict resolution process has to be fair, right? It can't be a setup. It can't be biased in favor of one party or the other party. And value has to be assigned to everyone's perception, whether it's believed to be based in reality or not, because the perception is what's informing their position, okay? It's what's causing them to feel justified in their position. So it's important that we are able to understand the other party and not simply just clash with them. But we want to make sure that we're on the same page. And just in case you haven't seen the previous 3, we want you to have a foundational understanding of what we're talking about. So a conflict is defined as to come into collision or disagreement, to be contradictory, in opposition, especially prolonged struggle or strife. A conflict is a fight, a battle, or struggle, and it also means to clash. Resolution is the act of determining upon an action, a course of action, a method or procedure. And then conflict resolution is the formal or informal process that two or more parties use to find a peaceful solution to their dispute. And as I stated, the purpose of conflict resolution is not to assign blame or to determine who's right and who is wrong, but to try to find a solution that all parties can be okay with, right? Even if it's not their ultimate wish that's been um, granted, that they can at least live with the conclusion that's been arrived at. Um, Ideally, we should identify needs. I think that's a smarter way to address conflict. What is needed by the other party? And if we're going to engage in conflict resolution, it's important that we understand for ourselves what is it that we desire? What is it? What's the bottom line for us? What is it that we desire? And then why do we desire it? Do we have a legitimate reason for desiring it, or are we just being uncooperative? Um, And then why is it so important? Why is that so important? What is the most important thing? And so everything can't be the most important thing. All right. So, what is the most important thing? Now, again, in this series, we've addressed collaborating, competing, avoiding, accommodating. And today we are going to focus on compromising. Okay. We're going to be talking about compromising. All right. Compromising. The compromising conflict resolution style tries to find an expedient, mutually acceptable solution that at least partially satisfies all parties while maintaining assertiveness and cooperativeness. So it's like this balancing act. It's like walking a balance beam in gymnastics, right? This is best used when there are bigger fish to fry, more important things to be concerned about. And you want to make a decision and move on to more important things. And so, a person who uses the compromising conflict resolution style determines what's important and is willing to relinquish the things that are of lesser importance. Um, in the interest of just moving forward and not getting stuck in the minutia or something that they think is not as pressing. Okay. And so, where on the surface this sounds wonderful and warm and fluffy, it's important to remember that when this conflict resolution style is used, that no one is really fully satisfied. No one's fully satisfied. Um, and so you want to be cautious about utilizing this repeatedly over and over and over again, because at the end of that, you'll end up with parties who have this sense of dissatisfaction with the process itself. Okay. And so again, again, there's no right or wrong conflict resolution style. But if you're able to determine, is it the relationship that's important, or is it the outcome that's the most important thing? All right. And you may be confronted with this when it comes down to the health and welfare and safety um, of an individual. When we're talking about domestic violence in particular, compromising could really put a victim at greater risk. Um, if they get into that mode and continually stay there, they'll remain ensnared. And then there are times in an abusive relationship where maybe it's not a good idea to get into a full blown argument about too much salt on the eggs, or you burn the biscuits. And maybe it's okay to let that go, because the most important thing is that things don't escalate to physical aggression at that point. Okay. And so Being able to recognize these different conflict resolution styles can be very, very helpful when we're talking about navigating our interpersonal relationships, our work relationships, our intimate relationships, because it can cause you to really examine and to determine for yourself what is truly important in this moment. In this moment, what's the most important thing? And what style do I need to utilize in order to attain it? This is Apostle Cheryl with Judas Roar Domestic Violence Awareness Initiative. We appreciate you spending time with us today. It is our hope that this series has been eye opening and helpful for you as you go forward and navigate your life. You be safe out there. Blessings to you.